When we discuss Batman in any form of media, there will always be people who ask the question, why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker? Wouldn't that solve the issue? Batman was created in 1939, but it was 1940 when his no-killing rule began. This happened after Batman issue 1, where he used a gun to shoot Hugo Strange's henchman. Superman and other heroes already had this rule, and because Batman lives in the same world as Superman, he shouldn't kill either, according to Whitney Ellsworth, who was an editor at DC at the time. He wanted Batman to be an actual superhero. Around this time, Dick Grayson got his first appearance, so a mentor who kills would not have been a great role model. It was in Batman issue 4 that Batman told Robin, "We never kill with weapons of any kind." This was the first time Batman openly said he does not kill. But would Gotham be safer if Batman did kill? Welcome to a new criminological take on Batman and his crime-fighting ways. To study this, we need to take a look at the crime rates during and after the abolishment of the death penalty. Since Gotham is supposed to be in the United States, I will focus more on their statistics. The first question we need to take a look at is, does the death penalty make society safer? There has been a lot of research on whether or not the death penalty decreases crime, and the overall conclusion is that it does not. In 2004, the average murder rate per 100,000 in the states with the death penalty was 5.71. In states that did not have the death penalty, the rate was 4.02 per 100,000 of the population. So there was a higher murder rate in states with the death penalty. Although in other countries the rate has gone down at least a little, also states that sanction by killing endorse this aggressiveness and continue the cycle of violence. Fighting violence with more violence is not always a great solution. Most murders are committed through passion, a reaction to a situation that's going on right at that second. Those people don't think about the consequences before acting. It's basically a very extreme reaction. Other reasons why people commit murder could be alcohol, drugs, and mental illness. They all affect the ability to control behavior and think about the repercussions. If a murderer doesn't fit any of these boxes, he probably thinks he'll get away with it and not get caught, so they believe they won't get punished at all. The second question is, are offenders more afraid of committing crimes when there's a chance of getting executed? Probably not. It could cause even more violence. If a type of crime has a death penalty punishment, why stop there? If you commit, let's say, a robbery and it would have a possible death penalty sentence, why stop with the robbery? You're escaping from the cops and some people are in the way. Why not run them over? You're already getting a severe punishment, so those extra victims cannot make it worse for you. A second answer to this question is, if criminals were afraid of getting executed, it would imply that they're okay with going to prison, possibly for life. As we discussed a few seconds ago, and in the Is Batman the Villain video, Batman's villains often don't think their crimes through. Many crimes are a spur-of-the-moment thing. Even criminals, like the Joker, who make plans, may still not think about the grand consequences of their actions, especially if they have a mental illness that affects their executive functions. Their plan could include what they're going to do, how they're going to act, how they're going to escape, but they may not instantly think about getting caught, getting arrested, going to court, getting sentenced, and such. So in short, if being executed doesn't scare them, being locked up for the rest of their life probably doesn't either. Now, in no Arkham Asylum security isn't the best, and villains seem to never stay there for a long time. So it's possible that Batman's villains aren't afraid of a prison sentence because they know it'll be short. In that case, we would argue that that could scare them. Lucky for us, there is once again another Batman the Animated Series episodes with a similar story like this. Arkham Asylum is in need of a new security guard, so they hire Lyle Bolton. However, his techniques are incredibly aggressive, to the point where even Scarecrow escapes Arkham just to get away from him. Batman and Robin capture Jonathan Crane and bring him back, where he said he wasn't even going to commit any more crimes, he just wanted to get away from Lyle. This could be evidence that some villains could reform and stop committing crimes if the punishment was bad enough. However, it doesn't prove that death scares them. Maybe it was the torture they endured, and some would argue that torture is worse than death. A last question I got was, does Batman install hope in the citizens of Gotham when the villains get out of Arkham so easily? The general public believes it's important to achieve justice by punishing an offender. However, other goals are deemed to be just as necessary, such as rehabilitation. So, sending mentally ill offenders to a place where they get treatment is great. A second aspect of trust in justice is how victims are treated. Procedural justice is a fair and respectful treatment towards the people involved. This seems to be more important than the sentence an offender gets. So, the police and lawyers, etc. being respectful and following the rules are more important than the actual outcome. In Gotham's case, that could be Batman actively patrolling the city, showing respect to innocent people and victims, and so on. A last important aspect is leniency. People often think that offenders get a very small punishment. They have the impression that offenders are getting away with the crime. However, when those people get a hypothetical case with enough information, they end up giving a similar punishment. So when people get all the information, they tend to give a similar punishment as a judge does. Now, in the city of Gotham, I don't think the villains get a low punishment, I think they just escape Arkham. In that case, Batman could be a signal of hope because he will be there when someone escapes. He will be there to bring them back. In a city where the system seems to be failing at keeping criminals in check, I do believe Batman could be a symbol of hope. He goes out there to try and keep the people safe. When villains escape and commit even more crimes, it probably decreases the trust people have in the justice system. But not in Batman. Welcome back to a new criminological take on Batman and his crime-fighting wave.